So yeah, this next area, the Cave of the Dead, which is really just one really busy, fucked up room, but it's a pretty cool room.
Again, I gotta say, this DLC loves NPC summons, because there's two of them here. Two weird ones, too. Honestly, I can't remember their names, but they actually do some pretty cool stuff.
Okay.
Because the one is decked out like a dragon acolyte
Oh, cool.
from Aldea's Keep, and he will actually use Cast Light to make the cave brighter.
Oh, that's neat.
And
do you
he'll
summon
cast
them,
it whenever...
like, do
You summon them in the little
while-
room when you drop down.
Really? So like well before the boss fight.
Yeah, well before the fight.
That's cool. Okay.
And he's a pretty cool guy, and because he's a mage, and like he uses I think like Soul Spear and a couple of other spells, but then Cast Light, which it's cool to see an NPC use Cast Light. That's kind of a neat way to get around having a dark area.
Yeah.
And then the other guy is in traveling merchant gear, and uses a shotel that he buffs with lightning.
That's neat. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to have NPCs for this area, and they're kind of helpful for this area too, because it's kind of a mess.
Right. I like the area. I think the area is great. It's very crazy, and it's very short, but I like the design of it a lot. It introduces you kind of get a sneak peek of them in Shulva. Like you can see some of the red-eyed doll statues when you shoot one of the switches. But you actually meet them properly here, and they're not as immediately threatening as the sons of bitches from the gutter or Black Gulch. But if not, handled properly, they can be a lot more devastating. So
yeah, which I mean, I've yet to get a petrification from them, but because it does take quite a long time, I think, to actually get petrified.
I've yet to been petrified at all, or cursed.
Yeah, I don't
in
think
Dark
I
Souls
have
1.
been.
I've been cursed in 2.
I was trying to think of if I've been petrified in Dark Souls 2, and I can't recall a time when I have. I feel like I have been. I just can't remember when it was or what did it.
Right.
But anywho, I'm not really a big fan of this area. I feel it's kind of like it feels like they were trying to make it like a clusterfuck of concepts here, but it definitely is, and it just feels like there's too much going on.
I liked it. I thought it was great. It has scary immobile statues. It has scary mobile statues. It's got poisoned soldiers that fight you while you're fighting the scary immobile and mobile statues. I thought it was really cool.
And it is also, I would say, quite short too.
It's like half an area at best. So
yeah, and there's also a really weird thing in this area that I don't know if it's anywhere else in the game, and I don't know if you ever encountered it.
Is it that statue?
This is where I got petrified. Yeah, that's what petrified me.
Really?
So I have been petrified. That statue.
It's the one. It's like in the inlet, and is there like a box or an item in front of it, and it like
there's an item in front of it, and it spews out a bunch of petrification gas when you go to pick it up.
Oh fuck! I remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't petrified, but I remember that. I was pretty intimidated by that.
Because I think I ducked into that cave because I had a lot of petrification. Then it was like, ooh, a chest.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Bummer.
What? That's the area. Yeah,
right.
There's a lot of stuff going on. You seem to like it. Okay, I don't really like it that much. Let's talk about the boss.
The boss. Okay. I know that you're immediately going to dislike these bosses, or one thing you're going to dislike is that they can't be staggered, or they follow different stagger poise rules, which I think is fine since they are very susceptible to backstabbing and parrying and riposting. But this is I don't know, it's like an optional fight through a clusterfuck of an area, so if they're going to design a boss in this regard, I think that's fine. This is not a boss designed to fight by yourself.
No, it's not. This is very clearly a boss designed to be fought with summons, and in fact, this is the area where you can summon people from outside the DLC into.
Yes, I was going to mention that. This is the only place it works, right? If you put your summon sign down next to the shrine in Black Gulch, it will summon you for this boss, correct?
I am not sure how that mechanic works, actually.
Okay.
I believe that's true.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds correct, but I've never tried it or seen it done or whatever. So who
I don't know,
knows?
if you've summoned someone, maybe they were summoned from outside the DLC. So
I have summoned people, so because that's how I beat this.
yeah, that's an interesting thing too. Is that I've heard that if you're summoned into this boss and you don't have the DLC, you can get DLC item drops from the bosses. I believe.
Yeah, you can, because I've heard
Right.
of people getting Puzzling Stone Sword from this.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
And
I think that they're.
It's a cool concept. I guess
Yeah.
my rather cynical view of it would be that it's funny that they let people play what is probably the worst area of the DLC as the opening, and just because of like the crazy cave and this sort of it's an uneven boss fight. And I would say,
Right.
from what I've read and heard people mention, it's been kind of a mixed reception for this fight.
Yeah, for
And
sure. I mean,
My own reception, I've alluded to it several times, but I guess I would say it is mixed because mechanically and conceptually, I do think this is actually a pretty cool fight of fighting in this multi-level, wide open area against 3 different enemies, and they attack you at different ranges, and they have different fighting styles. The one's faster with dual wielding, the one is Havel, the one's long range and fast close range, and all of that is cool. But I don't like that it's reused assets. I would have way rather seen original enemies, even if they had all of the same stuff. And like you said, I don't like that they don't really get staggered and have different staggered rules.
Yeah, I think that if you're trying to solo this boss, which, wow, I'm very sorry, I would agree with you pretty well. But this is a boss so clearly designed to be played with other people. And in that regard, I don't know, if it's going to be 3-on-3 and you can kind of like game the boss fight to where it's about 1 player per boss, I think it's fine. I think fighting these guys one-on-one is acceptable, even if they break the rules a little bit.
Because I guess my sentiment on enemies sort of breaking the rules and having really high poise is that I know, like, I can beat anything if I I don't want to say cheat or cheese it or exploit the AI, but that's not really what I want to have to do to win. It's kind of like, I know I can exploit the AI on most of the enemies in this game, but that's not the fun way to do it. The fun way is to have, like, a knockdown, drag-out fight, and it's like kind of like trade hits and be careful and stuff, and when these enemies just have lots of poise and don't really get stunned, it's just, I have a lot less fun with it.
I don't know, like, I got fucked up my first attempt because I had no idea what to expect walking through that fog gate. It was probably the most vicious time I've been killed while first attempting a boss fight, I'm sure. So, I don't know, I'm a little more receptive to criticism of this fight because it is basically just an NPC phantom fight. It's not that creative. The level design kind of makes it, though, and the fact that it's so summon oriented, I think is interesting, and it's optional. So I think they're kind of allowed.
Well, technically,
to do
all of the
some
DLC
bullshit things.
is optional. So
It's a nebulous thing to say, but I appreciate them handling it in a very unique way. There's no other Souls boss fight quite like it. So
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. And that's what I guess I mean about the reused assets, too, is, as I said for the last boss fight, if I like the fight conceptually, but if you had new assets, I'd like it a lot more.
I think there's something about them kind of mimicking players in that regard. I've heard that this is a very popular tactic in the Tower of Flame for invaders or something like that, is to have one player shooting with dragon arrows from one walkway while someone is fighting like as an alpha. I don't know, like apparently like this, I don't know, From is very aware of how their fan base plays their games, so I think that there's
well, the Havel is definitely
yeah, of course, there's some meta stuff going on here that I think is only appreciable if they reuse the assets, and that's kind of a really defensive way of looking at it. But
I can see that, but it's one of those. If this was 3 cool new enemies, that would be a lot. I would feel that'd be a lot better, and I'd be a lot more hyped to fight this, and I would maybe be less disappointed with other aspects of it.
I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. We were just totally excited earlier on the Jester Thomas boss fight. We didn't have anything negative to say about that, and there's nothing new or creative about that. So he's not a boss technically.
Well, that's a completely different context though, because I guess we haven't fought a Jester Thomas before, but I've fought plenty of Havels.
Right, but I mean, but Jester Thomas.
I get what you're saying though.
Right. So, I think that it just involves maybe just reconsidering. I think it's kind of maybe from just playing with the idea of what contextualized as a boss fight in this case, which I think is neat. So, yeah, I didn't love it. But I think it's a cool idea. I don't know if I would change anything about it. I think it's fine. It's a co-op driven boss fight. It's hard as hell. And I've heard it compared to like a PvP, like WoW, like I don't know how it compares to a World of Warcraft encounter. But
yeah, yeah, Gankfest, Gank Boss. That's been one of the common nicknames. Oh, speaking of, because I keep forgetting to mention this, because I'm playing through the DLC as part of my Let's Play thing that I'm doing on this very same channel, and you should all go check that out. Shameless advertising,
right.
But we played through this DLC the other day, and my buddy that I'm playing with came up with the greatest nickname for Ilana and Veldstadt, which was Yzma and Krunk from Emperor's New Groove.
Oh my god, you're so right. Oh, wow, that's genius. That's really
He said
really
it while
good.
we were recording, and I thought it was good. Like, at the time, I'm like, that's good. But it was one of those later, I got it more. For some reason, I'm like, oh, that's actually really good.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
And I guess on, I hate to keep going off tangent, but that fight, too, is there have been some interesting lore implications for that fight.
Yeah, I've read some theories.
In that Veldstadt may
about...
not have been all that super good. The connection that I saw made was about how she summons Veldstadt, and Veldstadt has a corrupted, like, dark soul in the soul
right.
menu.
Oh, yeah, you're
so
right.
The implication that a couple of people have been implying is that maybe Veldstadt was a traitor. And
I hope not.
And
oh,
he
man,
was actually working
would
with
ruin...
Nishandra.
No. I refuse. No. I do not like that
And
idea
that's
at
why
all.
his soul is corrupt. That's why he's a summon
No. His soul is corrupted because he was forced to absorb the darkness because he was loyal to his homie to the end. That's
so,
why.
speaking of Vendrick...
Okay. Hey, if you go to his room, he is engulfed in a circle of light on the floor. So, I mean, just putting it out there. That's not an accident.
Well...
Anyway, yeah, Vendrick. Oh,
Hexes...
this was,
well, he also uses hexes. Hexes required.
Yeah.
Hexes use faith and intelligence. You don't have to be a good guy to use hexes or miracles.
No, that just means that he has faith and intelligence. So that's all it implies. Before we get into this Vendrick-oriented thing, I think it's worth noting that we mentioned earlier that this DLC has no new NPCs that you formally speak to. It also is so severely lacking in story details or player incentivization. And by that I mean you're going to go through the area because it's there, you're going to explore everything you can because it's fun, it's a well-designed area. But if I didn't have marketing tell me that I was looking for a lost crown, I would have no idea what purpose this area serves or why it's there. The most I can say, it dragon, people worshipped it, it poisoned everyone. That sucks.
Yeah, because the story, as I
Ilana,
understand it, is there was the king built the city to worship the dragon, and the dragon slept underneath the city, and then a long time later, Jorg came along and decided, hey, I'm a badass, I'm gonna kill this dragon. And He
Okay.
stabbed the dragon with his big spear. The dragon got super pissed and doused him in poison fire, which then corrupted the entirety of the city.
Right.
And then, perhaps
So-
because the dragon has the spear shoved inside of him, he can no longer, like, rest or sleep or anything, so he's been driven insane, and he's trapped in this crazy underground city.
So Ilana is singing to him. Because he seems like he's resting when you finally go to fight him.
Well, despite you actually
So-
encountering him right when you start the DLC, too. So it's clear he's not,
Yeah,
like,
you
trapped
encounter him another
in that
time as
room.
well.
Yes, when he fires on the bridge, too.
Yeah, he's not trapped in that room. So yeah, by the way, Dark Souls loves creating foreshadowing with its dragon characters. It's good, but I feel like maybe they shouldn't do that for a while. Calamite does pretty much the same exact thing, and the Hellkite Dragon does that, and Seath does it to an extent as well when he murders you in the Duke's Archives. So, and it happens in Demon Souls on more than one occasion, so it's like, yeah, man, cool dragons, I get it. Just maybe, but focus on something else intimidating for a while.
And I would also point out, too, I guess, the one last thing in this DLC before we move on is that I love that the reward for beating that 3 enemy boss fight is a flower skirt.
It has it has matching flower shoes as well, and I really hope we get other flower accessories to accentuate that in the other DLCs later. So, do you have to finish the DLC to unlock this Easter egg?
The Vendrick, I do not know.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that if you wear the crown, he will say something different.
What? Oh my god, I gotta do that.
Yeah, which I
Oh,
think
didn't
the
know that.
implication being that each one of the crowns, he's going to say something different.
Does he say something if you wear his crown?
I do not know. I don't believe so.
I
I
will do
remember
that.
reading a thing of that if you wear his armor, he doesn't say anything.
Oh, bummer.
But anywho, you can see Vendrick in this. He's here
Yeah.
now.
What a cool Easter egg. That was very awesome. Very nice surprise. Even though the DLC itself was very lacking in lore details, this is extremely intriguing. This little Easter egg bag.
Yeah, and I don't really think we have any more much to say than it's cool, and it's cool he's there. And there's a couple of implications you could maybe draw from this. I kind of hope that, because they mentioned that if you do all 3 pieces of the DLC, something might happen. And I'm kind of hoping that that might end up being a in-the-flesh Vendrick fight.
I don't want to fight him. No. Okay, maybe if I get to fight him and Velstadt together, that'd be down.
Alright, I think we've just about covered it. So yeah, overall, I was really satisfied with the DLC. As I mentioned, my big complaints with the DLC are the enemies who lack poise and are annoying to fight because of that. It feels like, I'll use a term that I really hate hearing, and you're probably going to hate too, feels kind of like fake difficulty at times.
Okay, alright.
And I don't necessarily like that some of the assets got reused. It's not so much that I hate that they're there, but that I think it would have been cooler were they original.
I am overwhelmingly positive about this DLC, and really, my only complaint is that I wish there was some more lore-oriented stuff happening. It doesn't necessarily need to even be tied to Dark Souls 2. I just wish there was more to make me care about the history of this area. And man, it is a cool area. And I was left so satisfied with it. It was sublime.
Yes, I would say
maybe
coming into this, I was definitely wary. Because I would say I think I'm getting the idea that overall with Dark Souls, I'm maybe a bit more critical of it than you've been. And I'm definitely more of a Demons in Dark 1 fan than I am a Dark 2 fan. But I was kind of coming into this prepared to be like, okay, I'm not going to be very happy with this. It's going to be short. It's going to be overpriced. I'm not going to get a lot out of it. I'm going to get, one boss fight in one area. but I'm overwhelmingly happy with what we got.
Yeah, I actually, I'd say it's maybe too good because I wonder if it sets an unfair precedent for the 2 episodes to follow. And we have this DLC that, in terms of level design and boss difficulty, for better or worse, seems to almost fix a lot of the issues people had with Dark Souls 2. And I love Dark Souls 2. A lot of the things like area design and level design, I see them to some extent, but I don't hold them as much as a lot of other people do. Nonetheless, I can see the disparity in level design style and quality between the DLC and the game itself. It seems weird to complain this DLC is too good, but where is this
Exactly.
in the game I purchased in March?
Because, like I said, I am
So-
more of a Dark 1 and a Demons fan than I am Dark 2. I like those games more. I do like all of them now, and I like Dark 2 by all means. But if this DLC quality was the quality of the entire game, then this would have been like probably I would have liked Dark Souls 2 like an order of magnitude more. It might be my favorite game if the entire game had that quality to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say entire, if even, I mean, because Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls, actually, I would say Dark Souls 1 still has I don't know, a pretty good portion of levels. I think Demon Souls probably has the best collection, or I would say the least amount of levels in it. But yeah, I think even if Dark Souls 2 just had some more fleshed out levels like the DLC does, it would have been a stronger game. And that's coming from someone that I don't think it is measurably worse than the first game.
So, I don't really have any idea what episode number this is. I think I said 5 at the start of this, but it might not be.
I think so. Right.
But, so this is going up at some point in the future, and there will be an
Okay.
episode that airs after this at some point in the future, too. And I'm not sure what that'll be yet, because who knows. So tune in next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Just subscribe, and it'll it'll show up in your thing, and you'll always know it's there. But yeah, so YouTube chilling aside, thank you for watching. We will be back again, hopefully soon, within a week's time span from whatever the air date of this is.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking about this.